I would like to give a huge shout out to Gundam Central Shop. This is where I get all of my third-party model kits. They have been a huge supporter to the channel, so if you are looking into getting your own third-party model kits, I'll go ahead and leave a link in the description. Hey, what is up everyone, and welcome back to the Animus, and today we are going to be reviewing the Nilson Works 160 scale monument repair type. And now straight into the tools that I used for this build. So I did have to use my drill bits just because there were some pieces that I had to drill a little bit so the peg would fit perfectly. It wasn't that big of a deal. It's something that is not really necessary, but I feel that the plastic resistance was way too much, and I'm afraid of breaking joints, specifically on kits like these where you don't know if you're ever going to be able to buy a replacement or find a replacement for it. So I would rather just be safe than sorry. So I went ahead and drilled and shaved some off. The next thing I used was this specific one. This was a DSPIAE 400 grit sandpaper or sanding sponge, and this was just for the pegs that were just not working out to go in. Now, granted, this is just maybe mine. I am not saying that the kit has issues, because it doesn't. It just has the tolerance between the plastics and the pegs. It's super tight, and again, with a kit like this, that is rare to find. If once they run out or they sell out or find replacement parts, you can't just go out and buy one off the store. Then it's better in the long run to try to shave some of that excess plastic off, so that way you can just increase the longevity of the kit if you're one of those people that like to pose. Again, I would like to say that this kit did not have any issues at all in regards to broken parts, fitment, really bad fitment, or anything like that. I am talking about the tolerances of the parts and the pegs for the actual slots. Mind you, this is not something that a lot of people care about. Some people want to have it super tight, and that's completely fine. In my case, I was thinking more of the longevity of the kit. I would rather fill in the peg if it becomes loose over time than to just have a super tight peg that I can't pose, or if I ever try to repose it, it breaks. Next thing I used for this build were two sets of nippers. I had single bladed nippers from DSPIAE, and then I had the this is a single bladed nipper as well from Hobbytown, but it's more of a entry grade, so I used it for the first cut, and then I used my single blade from DSPIAE to do the second cut. And then the last thing I used for this build was my hobby knife. Very limited list of tools. Now the next thing we're going to talk about is going to be extra parts. So we do have some extra parts for the base here. I have an extra peg here for the actual stand, just in case something breaks. For some reason, I had these two parts left over. I am really hoping that I didn't miss anything. I did follow the instructions up to the T, so I am hoping that this is just a one-off, and I'm not really missing any parts, because there was no other joints or anything that I could attach to this left over in the runners. So I'm guessing that they just have them in case these break. I'm not too sure. I am going to save them just in case, but that's pretty much it. And the other piece that we have here is that it brings an extra part for the chest in case you didn't want the red part in there. Then you have an extra one. I guess it's pretty cool in case it does break anyway, that you have that extra part. And then you have an extra part for the base itself, because Nilson Works has always two different types of bases, and they make sure they give you all the parts that you need so you can build both of them. Now I want to talk about the manual itself, because the manual does have some corrections. Now I want to mention that I did mention in one of my pages that there were some parts that were switched over in the runners and they had different numbers. However, later inspection of the box, I found out that Nilson Works included the correction to the manual inside the actual box itself. So this was probably an oversight on my end, but at least I kind of figured it out on my own. And then went from there. But just so you guys know, just keep a lookout for this piece of paper. This is corrections to your manual. And the next thing I want to talk about is going to be the water slide decal. So for the water slide decals, I decided not to go ahead and use them because upon further inspection, there is no manual for these decals. I still haven't found one. I tried going online and I couldn't find no manual for them. The only thing that you have to go by is the pictures that you have in the manual. So you could install it using that, but I cannot really tell you if it'll look good or not because I didn't try it myself. However, the reason why I didn't try it on mine specifically is because after I built this kit, I just feel that this is a kit that we're just gonna have to paint on the channel. So I know that some of you asked for other custom work and paint, and this is going to be the kit. This is the kit that we're going to paint on the channel as our next Animus build. The next thing we're going to talk about is going to be the effect part. So this effect parts, I'm going to be completely honest with you. I thought they were like really soft plastic. They're a little warped. As you can see in the camera, it'll show you that's a little, you can see that's a little warped. Hot water will straighten these out. However, I didn't want to try and mess with it in case they broke, because if they do break, then I have no way to replace them. So I'll just take the hit. I usually don't use beam effects when I'm posing my Gundams or any type of model kit anyway, so this will just go back in the box. But for those of you that are trying to keep this for your model and display it with this on the beam sabers, you can just dip them in hot water and then straighten them out. So up next, we do have the hands. So you do have 3 sets of hands included in this model. And yes, I am missing a pair of hands because they're equipped on the actual model itself. But the hands are actually the ones that we all like and love, which is the ones that you have the thumb that can move, but then they are static hands. None of the hands have pegs, but there's a reason for that. You do have the open hand. You do have 2 closed fists as well, and then the other hands are just weapon grabbing hands. The next thing we're going to talk about is going to be the actual shield for the model, and let me tell you, this thing has extreme amount of detail and color separation. And once you panel line this, or if you decide to paint your own monument, these things like this shield and the weapon, everything is just going to look so good. You can already see the opportunities that you have in regards to color separation due to the interior of the model. So it does have gimmicks for the beam sabers right here where you can just pull them out. We can recognize this from other mobile suits there. You do have the handle for this for when you are posing with it. And then the additional gimmick that this shield has is that it also has like a rocket gimmick in case you want to pose it like that. Now this thing looks really good. And now basically my favorite weapon in any model kit that has come out in 2024. And this is like it's a rail gun, right? Or it's a rail cannon, whatever you want to call it, right? I definitely love this, but this is not even its final form. So this mod, whenever you do have this equipped on your Goose Meister there, you can also set it up to a firing mode. And this thing just looks insanely good. You do have color separation all across the weapon. You also have gimmick for cameras when it comes to the weapon itself. So you push those 2 there, and you do have clear parts on the inside there for the cameras. When it's not in use, you can go ahead and close it. So this, now I want to talk about Nilson Works base. This thing is monumental, and it's gigantic, and it's super sturdy. That's it. I don't have anything else to say about this. You do have the peg here, so you can adjust the height. You have 1 small peg on the top, so you can go ahead and move it back and forth. All right, and next we are going to talk about the backpack. I am in love with this. This backpack has so many details, and it has so many gimmicks, and you can pose it however you want, and it just looks great. And it commands presence. When you are posing this model kit, this thing just commands presence no matter how you try to pose it. It has gimmicks, and it looks, the gimmicks are super nice. You can go ahead and close them out. You can half open them, leave it all the way open. You have your thrusters here, thrusters there. So once you are posing your kit, the backpack can go any way you want it to be. And that is something that I really liked about this. This whole tri section that they have here, they do have like a triple joint here where you can actually use it to your advantage to pose your kit however you want. And I really did like that. Additionally for this, the color separation for this is insane. The amount of detail that went into making all these parts and give it separate color separation is really good. I thoroughly enjoyed the whole build. There wasn't a point during the build where I was saying like, oh, you know what, this is too tedious. Oh, I'm not liking this. I enjoyed every single part of it. And again, with the parts that are slotted, so that way you can have that inner frame come out through the actual color part. I'm telling you, 2024 is the year of the third party kits. And now for the main event, and that is going to be the Goose Meister. I am liking this kit so much. Every time I look at it, it just looks big. It just looks better and better. The only complaint, Nilson, and this is for Nilson Works, the only complaint that I have with this model is that it's really bottom heavy. So when you're trying to lift it, it separates itself. So if you're going to lift it, make sure you lift it from the bottom and don't try to lift it through the weight from the waist or the chest, because it will fall apart. Another thing I wanted to mention about this kit is that this kit will stand by itself. It doesn't matter if you have the backpack, if you don't have the backpack, even if the backpack is so heavy, this kit is so bottom heavy that is sturdy. It's not gonna go anywhere. Now I want to talk about the details for this kit. The detail and attention to detail that they did while they were developing this kit is insane. You have clear parts on the head, you have a clear part on the chest, you have inner frame parts that are with yellow. You also have color separation on your armors, and you know, this thing just looks so good. The side skirts here, I wanted to make sure that to mention to you all that when you are posing your side skirts, you have two options for your side skirts. You know, it has a peg in here that you could just attach to the leg. I chose not to, so I could have better mobility on it, but this has a gimmick. When you open it up, the thrusters open up. One thing that I do want to mention as well is that you do have gimmicks in the back of the skirt as well. You do have your thrusters here. Another thruster right here. And again, all of this is posable, so it doesn't matter what you're doing, you can still pose it however you want. So you also do have clear parts. You do have clear parts on the back. You do have the clear parts on the head, and the color separation and the actual build process for this is not that tedious at all. So for those of you that are looking into tackling a third-party 1/60 scale model, and you know, you're looking at it and you're like, wow, the price is just right, maybe I should get it. Yes, I can definitely recommend this kit for anyone. Doesn't matter what your build skill is. You should definitely get it, 100%. Now jumping off into everybody's favorite, which is the articulation. So we're gonna start with the waist because I'm gonna end up separating it anyway. You can twist side to side. You can go all the way around if you lift the arms. You do have a nice crunch there to the front, but then I'm glad that that happened because that happened to me while I was posing it too. And you do have to make sure that that doesn't fall out when you're doing that. Aside from the crunch, you can't really crunch to the back. It doesn't have any back bend towards the back. It just has a crunch there. You do have a little bit of side to side, but it's not that much. One thing that I did want to talk about was going to be the waist itself that pops off. So I am going to pop it off just for the sake of the review, so we can go ahead and divide it for articulation. For the head, you do have a forward and back. You might want to put some glue on this. But you do have a front and back, and you do have side to side, and you can turn it all the way around. Be careful with that because it's like on a little peg in there, just in case it does break. So for the arms itself, you do have lots of tolerance when it comes to the arm. Like I'm literally using strength just to move it. You have to use your full almost strength to twist it around to get that rotation. So no, I am not going to try to twist the whole arm around. If you are trying to do that, nah, I'm not going to risk it because this is one of the joints that I'm saying that you're going to have to, this is one of the pegs that you're going to have to sand a little bit so you can get the arm in there. without having it too tight. You also have gimmicks in the shoulder blades where you can just go ahead and move it up and down. You have the gimmick for this, which is where you can go use it to pose with your armors or your, your shield and your weapon, your railgun there. You also can use the weapons on your hand and attach them while they're still attached to this, so there's not a big issue with that. For the arms, you do have turn here on the forearm. You do have your turn here on the bicep, and this is something really new for those that are not too familiar. This is not something that you see all the time on model kits where you could just move the forearm like that. You also have a bend of your elbow with your double joint there, and that's actually really good, and especially when you're trying to pose. Now for the legs. And aside from the legs being extra thick, which is fine because it is the Tallgeese, the amount of detail that went into the color separation and the details for this model kit itself, it goes to show when you bend your knee. Now for the side skirts, you do have full mobility because it is just a ball joint that you can just move around. The back skirts, you do not have that much mobility, just from side to side and a little bit here up and down. And then for the split, you can make a split, although I probably wouldn't recommend it, but you can make a full split with the model. You do have some gimmicks here of parts on the waist that move up and down freely. That'll help with posing, and so parts don't get in the way. Same thing with the front skirt here. Then now we're gonna go into the articulation for back and forth. So back and forth, that's fine. It does have nice articulation there. The one thing that I do want to mention as well is that this joint can move in case you want to extend the leg forward for those hard to get poses, right? Now, working on the leg, we do have mobility on the ankle. You do have your front toe there that moves. You can move the leg or the foot all around. So those hard to get poses when you're trying to pose your model, it is not going to be hard with this kit. And now jumping into one of my favorite mechanics for this kit, and it's going to be the knee. Once you bending the knee, and this is super tight, like I was mentioning before, the tolerances for this are insane. Once you start bending your knee, you'll start seeing all the parts starting to separate from the knee itself and the actual thigh. Look at that. And then once you move it back, all the parts just fall into place nicely. All right, so we're gonna go straight into the size comparison for the model kit itself. Just to start the comparison, here I have a perfect grade Exia. Now I'm gonna go ahead and set it side to side. And as you can see, the kit is just enormous, and having all those layers of armor and the layers of the weapons, it does help a lot for the actual shelf presence for the model kit itself. And let me tell you, it looks super nice. This is definitely a nice display piece. All right, so now we're going to compare it to a 1/100 scale, and for this model I decided to choose another model that has its own shelf presence, and that is the Master Grade Extreme Stride Freedom. And you can tell the difference. Like, this thing looks insane. The monument itself has so many parts, and it has so much detail and so many layers of armor, and you can actually feel the display, and it calls out to you when you have it on your shelf. And for those of you that are wondering what it looks like next to a 1/44 scale, here we have my high grade Jesta, and that thing looks minuscule next to the 160 monument. This thing looks great. So overall, this kit is definitely a value for its money. And there's so many things that could have gone wrong while building this kit that just didn't. It just didn't. It was a super smooth build. I built it super fast. I didn't complain. Usually I complain a lot when I'm building stuff that just gives me a lot of problems, and I just don't want to build it anymore because it starts feeling like a chore. But this model, just like almost all the other ones that we've reviewed recently, it's just smooth. It was just great. It was a great build experience. So that is it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed this review for the Goose Meister. And if you do like my content, don't forget to like and subscribe. Again, I would like to give a huge shout out to Gundam Central Shop. Without them, this build would not have been possible. So thank you so much for watching, you guys. I hope to see you next time pretty soon. I am working on some other builds. We got the GBWC competition coming up too, so I'm going to be a little bit MIA for that. I'll still have videos coming out in regards to tutorials and tool reviews, but for custom work and builds, we're going to slow down a little bit mid-September because we are going to try and finish our build for that competition. So thank you so much for watching, you guys, and I will see you all next time.